Today, we're going to explore one of literature's most fiery, passionate, and, well, destructive movements. And we're going to do it all through a single, powerful story. Just think about that for a second. What if your feelings, your joy, your anger, your deepest sorrow, weren't just your reaction to the world, but actually were the world itself?
Believe it or not, that's exactly what a whole group of young German writers and artists decided to do. They created a movement called Sturm und Drang, which literally translates to storm and stress, and trust me, it absolutely lived up to the name.
Now, we could get totally bogged down in historical dates and a long list of authors, but honestly, the best way to really get this movement is through a story, a parable that lays bare all of its brilliant and dangerous ideas. So let's just dive in. Okay, so first things first, what exactly are we talking about here? You can think of Sturm und Drang as a kind of youth rebellion. They were pushing back hard against the super neat, orderly, logical world of the Enlightenment. They basically argued that pure reason was kind of sterile. To be truly human, they believed, you had to feel everything, and I mean everything, intensely and without a filter. Okay, with that in our back pocket, let's turn to our story, the parable of the mirror and the sun. We meet our main character, a young guy known as the Wanderer. He carries the silver mirror with him everywhere and lives by one simple, intense creed. Life is intensity. To really live is to feel the world so deeply it practically makes your blood boil.
So the Wanderer, he stumbles into this valley dominated by two figures, a great sun, this steady golden light, and it's sort of bound by duty to a sturdy oak tree. But here's the thing, he doesn't really see the sun for what it is. He looks at it and all he sees is his own reflection, his own emotions, his own passion just reflected back at him, but way bigger and brighter.
And he is completely swept away by this. He's shouting at the sky, celebrating this fire he feels inside. And that oak tree, that symbol of stability and reason, to him it's just some dull gray thing that could never, ever understand the glory of his intense feelings.
And this right here, this just perfectly nails the core conflict. The Wanderer goes up to the oak and accuses it, seeing its grounded nature as a prison. "Your roots are chains," he says. But the oak's reply is pure, simple wisdom. "My roots are why I am still standing when the storm passes." It's passion versus reason, right there in one incredible exchange.
But does the Wanderer listen? Of course not. And that fire he's created from his own reflected passion, it starts to burn him. This isn't a fire that warms the world, it's one that only consumes him, literally blinding him to what's real. He can no longer see the green of the grass or the blue of the stream. All he sees is the searing white-hot light of his own obsession. So in one final, desperate move, he decides that the only way to truly possess the sun is to become one with it. He shatters his mirror, thinking that by destroying the reflection, he'll finally merge with the real thing. But of course, by breaking the only lens he ever used to see the world, he's left with absolutely nothing. He dies all alone in the dark.
Wow. Okay, so it's a tragic story for sure, but it's also this incredible allegory for the ideas right at the heart of Sturm und Drang, especially in Goethe's famous novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther. So, what does it all mean? Let's unpack it.
All right, let's start with the characters. The Wanderer, that's Werther, Goethe's tragic hero, a guy driven completely by raw, unchecked emotion. And the oak, well, that's Albert, Werther's rival, a stable, reasonable man who's, a functioning part of society. The Wanderer sees that stability as a chain, but the oak knows it's the very thing that ensures survival.
And what about the mirror and the sun? This is where we get to a really key concept, radical subjectivity. The silver mirror is the Wanderer's inner world, plain and simple. For him, nature isn't some objective thing out there. It's just a reflection of whatever he's feeling. It can shift from being a serene paradise to a devouring monster, based entirely on his mood. The sun, on the other hand, that's outer reality. It's objective, steady, and exists completely independent of how he feels. So you see, the Wanderer is trapped inside his own reflection. He's literally unable to see the world as it is. And this reveals the really dark side of the whole Sturm und Drang worldview.
From his point of view, and from the movement's really, this intense feeling wasn't a flaw. No, it was the mark of a genius, a superior soul who could feel things way more deeply than your average person. So the question is, was he actually seeing things more clearly than everyone else?
The parable's answer is a hard no, and it's delivered in this one absolutely devastating line. His higher vision wasn't vision at all.
It was a profound blindness to reality, caused by his own self-obsession. And this is a direct shot at Werther's story. The Wanderer's hatred for the dull oak is just like Werther's contempt for his steady, bureaucratic job. That self-consuming fire is Werther's obsession with a woman he can't have. And the story's brutal ending reminds us that Werther's suicide wasn't some beautiful romantic gesture, it was a dark, bloody, and tragic reality.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? Where does this parable leave us on that huge question of passion versus reason?
You know, the Sturm and Drang movement made a really powerful point. They argued that to be fully human, you can't just be a thinking machine. You have to embrace your instincts, your passions, your soul. And there's a deep, undeniable truth to that. But, and this is the critical but, the parable is also a warning. It shows that emotion all by itself just isn't enough. Sensitivity is an incredible thing, but without wisdom, without the roots of that oak tree, it just becomes this engine of terrible self-destruction.
And that brings us to the most crucial point of all. The Wanderer's fatal flaw wasn't that he loved the sun too much. His real tragedy was that he loved nothing but his own capacity to suffer. He wasn't really in love with another being. He was in love with the grand, dramatic performance of his own pain.
And that leaves us with this final, absolutely haunting image. He took something beautiful, a garden, and he set it on fire just to watch it burn. And then he pointed to the smoke, to all that destruction, and called it a soul. It's a profound warning about the difference between genuine feeling and just the performance of it, a warning that is just as relevant today as it was in Goethe's time.